For me, growing up in New Jersey, literally seeing the skyline from my bedroom, thinking like, how do you get there? You've got to be really on top of your game. You got to be ready for it.
We've invited Chef Tom Colicchio to put together some recipes that were inspired by companies in the Invesco QQQ ETF.
Hey, Tom, how
Hello.
are you?
Great, how are you?
Good.
An ETF is a collection of stocks, much like ingredients inside of a recipe. The Invesco QQQ ETF has companies that are really innovative and pioneers in their industry.
There's a lot of different companies that make up Invesco QQQ. I just wanted to play off this idea of recombining ingredients, taking just two ingredients, these very humble ingredients, potato and leek, as the starting off point for the creation of all the dishes. How can I manipulate these ingredients and change them to come up with different dishes? That's how you become innovative. You work your way around a problem. If you think about a lot of really successful companies, what are they doing? They're finding solutions to a problem. So I wanted to approach this as find your own way of doing things. Wow, this is different. This is exciting, it's interesting. How did they do that? The first dish today is a vichyssoise soup. So starting with potatoes and leeks, using NVIDIA as a jumping off point. There'll be chips somewhere around here.
NVIDIA makes chips that are used by companies all over the world and powers what we know today as AI.
So we're gonna start by making a potato puree. Vichyssoise is just really potato and leek, some stock, typically served cold. Part of being creative is reworking things. The vichyssoise, yeah, we're not doing that. I'm using water because I wanna just taste potato and leek. We have our potatoes that were boiled, and we're gonna put them through the food mill. If you don't have one of these little gadgets at home, I highly recommend you get one. We're going to incorporate a bunch of butter into this. You add so much butter to this puree, you have to make sure it doesn't break. You incorporate a little butter at a time, so it stays emulsified, so it doesn't turn into grease. It's a lot of butter. Okay, that looks about right. Really nice and smooth. We season it, beautifully smooth. This is an air cartridge, and this just puts a bunch of air into it, aerates it. It's like a whipped cream machine, right? But with potato in there, so you see how that potato puree is really light now? So we have our potatoes and leeks that are cooked in a little bit of water and butter, and they can kind of work around a little bit. And then, because it's NVIDIA and they're famous for their AI chips, we have a bunch of small little fingerling potato chips that we fried up, and then a very generous spoonful of caviar. So what I love about this dish is you look at this dish and you would never say, that's vichyssoise. But that's where it starts. Take a classic dish and rework it. It once was a humble vichyssoise. It's no longer humble. Inspired by NVIDIA. This is a dish that is inspired by Amgen. Again, we're gonna use our potatoes and leeks, but this is a roasted rack of lamb. I'm gonna cut this in half, tie it up here a little bit, holds its shape so it roasts a little more evenly.
Amgen focuses on molecular biology that drives a lot of their research fighting disease with molecular biotech.
All cooking is molecular, right? The second you apply heat to something, there's a molecular change. The pan should be hot, but not where the oil is starting to smoke. And you can hear it's gonna start to sizzle. Don't go shaking it back and forth. Don't try to move it, leave it alone. If you wanna get a really good sear on it, make sure it's really dry, and then make sure it's seasoned at the last second. Leeks, these are one of my favorite vegetables. And then our cabbage, it's kind of just torn apart. And we'll let that cook. Add a good amount of herbs to the pan, some garlic, and then we're gonna add some butter. We're gonna use this butter to baste our lamb. Really important. Then this goes in the oven. I had ADHD growing up. I was really hyper-focused on cooking, but I struggled with reading through recipes. But cooking is about techniques and methods. Periodically get in there, baste your lamb. Once I understood these techniques, then I was able to throw out the recipes and just cook. Typically you'll see this made for dessert, but we're gonna mix this with a little bit of chili crisp. Almost like that General Tso chicken flavor, that orange and spice. Cooking was one of those things where I was just able to complete it. All cooking has some sort of scientific element to it. And then we take this and just kind of drape a little over. This is our lamb with potato and leek, inspired by Amgen. This dish was inspired by Take-Two Interactive.
Take-Two Interactive makes some of the most famous games that a lot of us grew up on, and it's really transformed its business now to also include a mobile platform.
It's a gaming company, and you sort of game and go up different levels, and I took that as inspiration to create a Napoleon. When I say Napoleon, it's kind of very loosely. I'm gonna do it with potatoes. Again, the theme being potatoes and leeks. We're gonna add some chopped truffle to the bowl, a good amount of truffle juice, chopped shallots, champagne vinegar, and then some olive oil. And so that's our truffle vinaigrette. So let's take a little bit of the crab, take some of the truffle vinaigrette, just to marinate that crab. Get some herbs in here, some chopped parsley, a little bit of tarragon. Now separately, we're going to blanch the cabbage and the leeks. Very, very quick. And shock right in cold water. I just want to make sure it's drained really well. I want to get that water out of it. A little bit of salt, a little pepper, a little bit of olive oil. And so that becomes kind of like a little cabbage leek salad. I just happen to love crab, and that comes from a lifelong love of fishing and crabbing. I used to go crabbing with my grandfather. First, a little bit of the salad, just put it down first just to anchor these chips so they don't slide all over the place. A little bit more of the salad, and then some of the crab. Very kind of free form, and a little bit more chips. It helps if I can actually see. There we go. Now I can see what I'm doing here. That's probably, I think we've leveled up pretty good there. So this is our leveled up crab salad with truffle vinaigrette, inspired by Take-Two Interactive. There's so much talk about innovation. People think that means you have to throw everything at the wall and try to figure out a way to make things go forward. But I think also, if you take a step back, break it down to some of the basics, and then reinvent from there, I think it's really helpful.
Before investing, consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. Visit Invesco.com for a prospectus with this information. Read it carefully before investing.